Are you tired of weak, timid weapons that just don't get the job done?
Yes.
Do you wish your rifle had the spirit of liberty and the punch of 1,000 stars and stripes?
Yes.
Then look no further, citizen. The Constitution Rifle from Helldivers 2 is here to serve and protect us.
Woo!
Key features: fully automated democracy mode, because nothing says freedom like full automatic power. When you need to ensure the galaxy knows who's in charge, unleash a freedom-filled Fulisade with just the pull of a trigger. Proven to neutralize alien threats and any undesirables, like communists, tyrants, or anyone questioning your right to bear arms in space. Also, Patriot-grade precision. Engineered with the finest, most patriotic components, with every shot, feel the sweet, sweet sensation of the Founding Fathers nodding approvingly. Hit your target with a military-grade precision, because justice doesn't miss. Freedom-fueled ammo. Never run dry when you're fighting for what's right. Each round is loaded with a healthy dose of freedom juice, ensuring you'll stay stocked up and ready to liberate entire planets in the blink of an eye. Intergalactic rights enforcer. No matter where you're deployed, Mars, Xerxes 9, or the asteroid belt between Uranus and Neptune, the Constitution Rifle will ensure that every alien drone or peacekeeper understands exactly what you're up against. The will of the people. But wait, there's more! Exclusive limited time offer. Order now and we'll throw in a free Eternal Vigilance Bayonet. Perfect for when you need to remind an invader that they're messing with the wrong species. How to use: point at an alien, pull trigger, watch as your rights are enforced in the most explosive way possible. It's that simple. Introducing the Constitution Rifle, from the makers of freedom, delivered by the hand of justice.
Oh my God, folks. Holy shit. And just like in between the meteor and Uranus, this taint, episode 127, it's episode 128 of Just Some Gamers.
Bow, bow, bow.
Ooh, bum, 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 bum. Welcome
Hey, where
in.
is our theme music from Sweaty?
Buddy, listen, slide into those DMs, man.
I'm just saying.
I'm getting tired of sliding into people's DMs about music for our show, man.
I love it when you slide into my DM.
Yes, I know you do. You don't answer for 3 days, but I know you love it.
Unfortunately, it's true.
Yeah. And
I always respond to your text messages.
That's true. Well, that's why it gets confusing, because like sometimes I'll DM you stuff, and then sometimes I'll DM you stuff that I'm like, it's okay if he doesn't get back to me right away, and then I'll text you stuff. It's like I need an answer right now. So yeah. It's good. Just like I am, ELMMERFUDD. Hey, and the Mr. Effervescent Russell. Oh my God, dude. Are you okay?
Yeah, you got to choke on it, a little bit. Just,
Yeah.
really sell it.
I've never choked on it. That's only because I search out men with micro penises.
Oh. Even a micro penis needs love. And I said that from a man with a micro penis.
100%, man. Mine is, it's, as I've said many times, dude, it's not even a micro penis. It's an innie, not an outie.
What is below? Like, we should come up with a name, right? You have the micro penis, and then the what? The
Well, because mine is that. I think at that point it's just a fuddus, right?
mini matchbox micro penis.
Mini matchbox micro penis.
Yeah.
The triple M.
The triple M.
It's the opposite of triple threat.
Is it?
No, it definitely is. There's nothing threatening about it.
Well, it's kind of like a sneaker, you just you can ease it in there without anybody knowing.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about a shoe.
I think this is becoming oddly,
yeah.
I think we're getting dangerously close to non-consent, and that
we don't
now I feel bad about what I just said.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I consent to is continuing this episode. But seriously though, when it gets cold, I can taste it. It's bad. It just shoots up inside my body. Anyway, how have you been, Roz?
Taste what?
Oh, my penis. Because it's an innie, so when it's cold, I love explaining jokes. When it's cold, right, it goes even further up in my body. And the joke is that it goes so far into my body, I can taste it.
I thought it was a micro penis. So how far could it really go into your body?
That's the joke. It's because it's cold. So it goes so far, it's in my mouth.
So there's more root than stem. What you're telling me.
There's some travel room, right? It stays the same size the whole way through.
Oh, but it stretches. It's like Play-Doh,
No, not even really that. It's like what's that? Osmosis Jones.
Oh yeah.
But instead of a tiny molecule of a white cell or whatever, it's just my penis. Yep.
And so it just flows and permeates your entire body.
Basically, yeah. It frolics here and there, everywhere.
Frolics freely.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's Santa delivering gifts to every house on Christmas Eve, but it's my penis inside my own body.
Okay, I mean, explain that to me. So like, it is.
Imagine all the arteries and the whole nervous system, right? It's different houses around the world, right?
Sure,
my left hand is China. My right hand is Quebec.
I'm with you.
My left foot is South Africa. My right foot is Ireland, right? And as it gets cold, this is how we get demonetized. My penis goes inside. It has to bounce around to all these different countries and deliver the gift of my penis.
It's bouncy too.
It's very bouncy. It's like Tigger, dude.
Firstly, there's one big problem I have with that.
Okay.
And the geography of what you chose to represent your hands and feet.
Okay, let's get into that. Like, what part of that is it? Just because they don't geographically meet up on the map in the way I described the appendages of my body?
Well, I mean, so firstly, Ireland is in the northern hemisphere. Africa is in the southern hemisphere, and specifically you said South Africa.
Correct.
Which, I don't know if you know this, but is neither a continent nor a country, is just really a region.
Correct.
And I honestly don't even remember what you said for your left and your right hand.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Well,
I lost it.
The thing you're missing here is, I probably should have led off with this, right? Is when my penis goes inside my body, right? I feel such incredible feelings that my body intertwines into some weird, I'm upside down. I got a leg behind my head, so that's why the different appendages geographically, after I pretzel myself, line up to the correct hemisphere.
I'm just getting this mental image of, when
really
they would
they
would apparate in Harry Potter and they would twist around.
Yeah.
That is what I'm getting from this mental picture of your body when your micro penis. It's so cold that your micro penis reverts into you.
This may be the best intro to a show we've ever had.
I think this is fantastic. I think
this,
just like last time when we got distracted and talked about Star Citizen the whole time, I'm thinking this should now be
the whole hour,
our entire show.
Yeah, an hour and a half of talking about the geographical locations of different parts of your body when your micropenis enters it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't want to do that at all, if I'm being honest.
Question: Can you orgasm when your micro penis is inside of you?
I can. Yes, absolutely. I have many times.
I feel like that would cause some internal issues.
It depends where it happens. It definitely, early in my life, when I was discovering things about myself, my body was going through some changes, right?
Sure.
There's definitely some weird. I had some weird seepage from my eyeball a couple times, like Lashif in Casino Royale,
instead of the blood,
it was cum. Yeah.
It's jizz.
Yeah. So that happens, and then Properge in chat brings up, it's dangerous to sneeze when your micropenis is in that part in your sinuses.
Oh, sure.
You could just lose it.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, it's like a molecule inside your body. Have you ever lost it?
I have, to my knowledge. Obviously I don't see it very often as it is so small. Fair. So, maybe it could be.
And I don't know about
ago, and I just have a toenail going through my body, and I just assume it's my micropenis.
Yeah. And I don't know about your grooming habits, but if your hair is long enough, this'll lost in a bush.
Well, that's the problem is even if I shave it, I mean, it's so fucking buttery smooth. There's still just that fine hair that's still, I mean, it's impossible. Because again,
Sure.
it's so
Micro.
small. Yeah.
Mini Matchbox micro penis.
Correct. Yeah.
The triple M, if you will.
It's true. So yeah, that's what's going on there. Sometimes I bleed cum. I think is what I bleed cum. I cry. Sometimes I bleed cum too, guys.
I mean,
That's how it goes.
guess it's running so heavily through your body
At all times. Yeah.
Yeah,
my arteries are no longer pumping blood. I'm literally pumping inside myself. Pause, double pause at all times.
Have you ever seen Alien, like the original one?
Yeah, I live it.
When they bust open the android and there's like all that white fluid?
Yeah.
That's what I would imagine would happen to you if somebody busted you like a piñata.
You should try. When you're my neighbor, you can bust me like a piñata. What do you think of that? For your son's birthday, you all can hit me with a bat.
I thought we were talking about something else busting you like a piñata.
Hey, are we talking about yours?
My bat.
Yeah, hell yeah.
My micro bat. Like one of those little ones that you used to get from the baseball park. That's just
damn, dude. Yours is that big? Holy
no.
shit.
I meant like if you're comparing normal penises to a normal size bat, mine would be the mini bat.
But in comparison to mine,
fair.
Which may I repeat is a very small penis.
I mean, I only get laughed at a little. Just a little.
Yeah. I get a lot of, oh no.
Well, you probably get a lot of tears, which I'm sure helps with the lubrication.
It does. Yeah. Sometimes, if you rub just right with the tears, you can pretend it's in, Yeah. So that's usually I bank on that.
Yeah. It reminds me of, New Girl, and Schmidt is having sex with his girlfriend in college, and he ends up like penetrating her kneecap or something.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or her, I think it was her armpit or something.
Huh, yeah.
Because they're like all lubed up.
Well, I mean, naturally lubing our way over into the actual topic of the show to get away from that.
Yeah. Are we ever getting there?
I don't know. I was letting it go as long as we wanted it to, and I think we wanted it to go now. So tonight we're discussing our favorite gaming antagonists. That was the whole half hour of the show that we'd spend talking about what games we're playing and things going on in our life. We decided to talk about my micro penis and crying cum. Yeah. So I'm glad we did that. Anyway, so we want to talk about our favorite gaming antagonists. A couple episodes ago, we did our favorite protagonists. It's time for the villain era. Yeah. Russ, I know you have a list. I know I have a list.
I do.
As per usual, we'll go back and forth, and I'm sure we have a lot of the same people on our lists.
I'm sure we do.
Yeah. So
I have one in particular that I think is going to be on both of our lists.
I feel really bad because I'm going to let you go first, knowing you're 100% going to steal my like who I was going to talk about first.
I won't actually. They're a little bit further on my list. I anticipated that you would. I normally throw in some redundancies just in case.
Okay.
But firstly, I mean, let's talk about what is a villain? What makes a good villain?
Amen. I like this.
So what to you is a good, like, what is a villain, first of all? Like, because we're kind of talking about antagonists, which I feel like can fall. I can't think of a game, actually, where the hero is the antagonist.
I know there's definitely been a couple, off the top of my head, I can't remember. There's definitely been a couple games where it like surprises you at the end that you were the bad guy the whole time.
Yeah. But there's usually another bad guy.
Correct.
And not necessarily a hero.
Yeah. But it's the, normally along the line, it's the guy that's trying to stop you from being cool and badass and nice. Who's trying to either blow up the world, the universe, a small quadrant of Ireland,
Or South Africa.
Yeah. We're never getting away from that.
No,
we're not. And as everyone knows who's been around you at all in gaming or listening to this podcast, like you are all about villains. I really am. Villains, especially in like the Disney movies and whatnot. Like the villains have the best songs. They're always the best design in games. They're always just really cool. Some of them you just hate them so fucking much, but you love to hate them. I think that's a big thing. If you love to hate them, that's well written.
I think that's true, and I think there's a lot of room in villains, right? Where there is, the sympathetic villain. I feel, and honestly, I think part of the reason I like villains is because they can be a little more three-dimensional than heroes are.
Yeah.
Right? Heroes typically, especially in storytelling, games, books, even in movies, they always make a good decision. Like, I think we've kind of come around on that as a society. You see it a lot more in stories where they don't always make the best decision.
Correct.
They make mistakes, and even sometimes they make a decision that would be deemed villainous, right? Because they're people, and I really like that. But villains typically have had so much more wiggle room where sometimes they're sympathetic, sometimes you empathize with why they made that decision. But to me, what makes a villain is they are counteropposed to the hero, right? And that can take a lot of different avenues. It can take a lot of different perspectives. But really what they are is they're a counterpoint to whoever the hero is. Whoever the protagonist is, that's who the villain is. Sometimes they're, you look at them and you go, that seems like a better deal. Like, that actually seems like...
Yeah, I don't see why people are telling me this is bad, because I'm with this guy. Yeah.
And I like that you can have a lot of nuance in characters. Sometimes you love to hate them. Sometimes you feel sorry for them, and sometimes you really enjoy who they are and what they're doing. But essentially, a villain boils down to me as who is the counterpoint to the hero, right? It's usually an individual. I feel like when you have an organization, I feel like you lose a lot of the juice that comes with a strong villain. But yeah, I love villains. Villains are my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what makes a good villain for you? I think we're going to talk about this some with some of the characters,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
But I kind of want to get an idea of what's your favorite kind of villain?
Knowing you, and obviously knowing my own personal list, each villain is my favorite for different reasons, right? Whether it's that slow burn build up to like, oh shit, this is actually not a great person, or just out of the gate, just evil McMahon, you're like, oh fuck, we got to stop this guy. Right. But like,
yeah,
for me, it's someone where you can really, you love to hate them, because at the same time you understand why they're making the decisions they're making. From the outside looking in, you go, well, why would you choose that path? But when you really, a lot of games like to give you those flashbacks or those moments where you're looking into the decision-making over time, flashbacks, whatever. And you go, oh, I understand why you're at this point. They're not just evil to be evil. They are humanized in a way that someone who's gone through that could potentially become this individual. And that makes you want to fight them harder, faster, right? But at the same time, you kind of like at the end moment which is why the cliche happens in so many movies, where the good guy gets to the bad guy and he goes, I can't kill him. And everyone's like, what do you mean? It's obvious you should kill him. But it's like, you understand why they're the way they are. I can't kill this guy, but you do anyway.
I think for me, my favorite type of villain, I really like it when they are villainous, where they're not afraid to make them do things, or where they have a villain who does evil things. Like, I think that makes a good villain. Like, if they have good reasons, great. Even if they don't have good reasons, of just like, I'm gonna do this thing. For instance, my mind goes to Maleficent.
Okay,
I don't like what Disney did with Maleficent, the movies.
Oh, where they did this
specifically.
Whole, she went through some stuff. Yeah.
Specifically because she's not a villain. She's a great villain in Sleeping Beauty.
Correct.
The movies made her into the hero, and she is no longer a villain. So I think because they were too afraid to make her do evil things,
I respect
and
that.
be evil,
yeah,
and be a villain. I like it when stories don't hold back from the villain is a villain. They do bad things. I love the nuance of that, of like, what is that turning point that makes somebody do those terrible things?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I like those kind of villains too, but they have to be what's the word I want to use for this? Grandiose, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna have
I like a good cliche
bad,
villain.
I want to just be over the top, fucking flowy cape he throws as he turns around, maniacal laughter, lightning strikes behind him. Like it needs to be theatric.
I do like a good theatrical villain.
Oh my god.
That is a good point. And even digging into that of like I kind of like the nuanced villain as far as from like a story perspective.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, just give me a villain, man. Just give me the cliche, grandiose, theatrical villain, and let me love to hate him because he chews the scenery whenever he's there or whenever he's on, right? Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and jump in. No, I threw it to you earlier, man. We're starting with you.
That's me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna actually start with the top of my list.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
And I'm gonna go with the Watcher from Darksiders.
Ooh, which is we're gonna be doing that when the remaster comes out for Game Club, right?
You're thinking of Soul Reaver.
I'm thinking of Soul. So many. Everything's Dark Soul Reaver. Soul.
We should do Darksiders at some point. Darksiders is the one where, and in this game, what happens is you play as War, one of the four.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, I remember this. Yeah, we talked about this a couple weeks ago.
The skills have been broken. You have essentially, you find out in that first level, you have been tricked into starting the apocalypse early.
That's right.
And so you come to Earth, you fight your way through all these minions, and you end up getting defeated by this demon. Then you're put before this universe's like overarching. What are they called? They're the balance, right? That's what this Shard Council is. Between heaven and hell, they are the ones who maintain the balance, and the four horsemen work for them. And so you're brought before the Shard Council. They're like, you started the apocalypse early. How dare you? What are you doing? Okay, we're gonna basically throw you in prison. Eventually you're released because it comes to light that you had been tricked. And so you go to Earth to journey to figure out what happened, right? And this is like 100 years after all of humanity has been killed.
Hell yeah.
And so you are given this, and it's essentially what it is as most common in video games, has become like the talking head, right? The person who is along with you to explain what's going on in the world. Or in the case of puzzles, like maybe how you could go through them. Think Atreus from God of War, right? Absolutely. Except the Watcher is not nearly as prevalent or a game mechanic, other than he's just kind of accompanying you. And you see him in a lot of the cutscenes. He's voiced by Mark Hamill.
Oh, shit. Yeah. That's right there on the list.
And Mark Hamill, one of the greatest villain voice actors, in my opinion,
hands
did animated series Joker. Right, Batman the Animated Series, Joker. He plays another character that's on my list a little bit later on. But the reason that I loved the Watcher as a villain, because he wasn't the main villain. Like, he wasn't the guy that you fought in the end or anything like that. But he was this constant presence behind you who took joy in causing you suffering and in pain, and enjoyed the control that he had over you, because he could cause you pain because he had the control over you. He was put by the Shard Council to watch over you, and therefore had control over you. So there are a few moments in the story where like you're butting heads, and he'll like crank his fist, and you'll be in immense pain as the character War. And it was so good. He wasn't the main villain, but he was the person who you had the most contact with.
Yeah.
Who you really grew to hate him. And every time he was on the screen, you're like, ooh, I just wish I could attack him and kill him and do something to him. And I think that is part of what made a good villain. Of, like you said, right? You love to hate him.
Yeah.
Because they made it to where every moment, every time he was on the screen, he was in counter. He was counter to what your desires were, and took joy in bending you to his will. And it was just, he was a really good villain.
Well, and then as a game mechanic, like you said, where he like when you're button heads and hurts you and like is controlling you, like as a mechanic to like build that up constantly.
Yeah.
Right? I just want to fucking kill this guy, right? But it's blue balling you, right? It just won't let you do it. And that builds up, that's way cool.
Because he had those snide comments, like you would come across something, and since he was the one who explained the world to you, he would say something, and he would always be very snide about it, and very condescending, and you're just like, ooh, let me loose at him, but you can't.
Yeah.
Right? And so there was that teasing piece of it, too, that just made him really, really good villain. Plus, his voice actor, I mean, come on. Incredible. You can't top that.
Eventually, do you get to attack him, though?
I can't remember.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember. I remember being able to... I think so.
I feel like after all that, playing around, beating around the bush, you'd remember if it finally let you fucking knock him out. Because that's the thing, like, especially in gaming, like, how satisfying is it to get rid of the antagonist is such a big moment, too.
If you do, I believe, so he is going to kill you, and it's unfortunately it's on like cutscene, like you don't actually get to fight him like as a boss, which would move him from A to S tier. But he kind of reveals the plans of the Charred Council, and he's getting ready to kill you, and then you're freed from his control. And you end up killing the Watcher. Like you grab him by the head and you squeeze it until it pops. So, I mean, you at least get the justification, not the justification. You at least get the realization of the vengeance that you have been wanting through this game.
I love that. Hell yeah, dude. Ooh, I really dig that. I remember watching you play that game way back in the day, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
It was mostly just like between me falling asleep on the couch over and over again. Is just you running around slashing things. So
yeah, it's kind of a and I leaned into this more with Darksiders 2, but it was kind of a Zelda-esque puzzle with combat. It was kind of it was very much in the vein, like the combat was very like original God of War PlayStation 2, I guess. 3? God of War was 2 or 3?
I think it kind of went between both of them. I think it was a series that kind of jumped both consoles. I want to say.
You are right. I think the first one was on PS2.
First one PS2, yes sir.
Yep. But it kind of had that flavor and game style, right, where you would come into a level that you then have an arena of which you then need to take out enemies, and then you would kind of move on to the next thing. It is on PlayStation Network, so you can still play it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to
PS5.
Write that down.
Yeah, I think it's one of their free ones.
I need to get a game. Free, yeah, free.
But it's really, really good. I think if you have the subscription, right, the PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
Plus
PS
thing, Plus. Yeah. And it still holds up. Like I went through and I played it because I was like, I want to play Darksiders. And it was still good, still fun.
Hell yeah, man. All right, my list.
Mm-hmm.
All right, buddy.
Your turn.
I'm not going to take the absolute obvious one. Because it's fun for both of us to bounce back and forth without saying it. Because when it happens, it's going to be a very big discussion. But another obvious one for me, right? Top of my list, best antagonists of all time is going to be the Elusive Man / Cerberus from Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, and then with Cerberus a little bit into 1.
See, this was the one I thought you were talking about.
Oh, okay. There's one I figured was obviously on both of our lists that I was surprised.
Yes.
Yeah. It rhymes with Brutch Vanderpin. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so the elusive man / Cerberus, right? In the buildup of it, right? If you really do a lot of side quests in Mass Effect 1, you start to learn about this this splinter group, right? For the human race called Cerberus, that is all about the progression of humans and their strength and power in the galaxy, which on paper you're like, yeah, we should have something like that because everyone's really strong in the universe. And then you start looking into what they're doing, and it's really fucking bad, crazy shit.
Yeah.
Insert Mass Effect 2, spoiler alert, Shepard dies at the very beginning, and you are brought back to life by Cerberus, right? Where then the narrative switches because you are surrounded by Cerberus personnel, and inserts the elusive man, who is so good at selling this point that he is there to use you to help humanity. I'm here to save humanity. That's been my only thing always. This other stuff you're mentioning, I've never heard of. That must be other splinter groups within my organization, right?
Yeah.
And as you progress further through Mass Effect 2, things start to not add up, and you can call him out on things, and he gets way more abrasive and is purposely throwing you into bad situations that he doesn't need to communicate and whatnot. And people in the crew start realizing this, right? And then as you enter Mass Effect 3, what happens between 1 and 2 comes to a head where Cerberus is just fucking batshit crazy, nuts, evil. Elusive Man is in on all of it, right? Comes out about it and is just like mass genocide, like tricking colonies of people to come in so they can turn them into monsters. I'm going to control the Reapers. I'm all powerful. We're going to be the greatest thing in the universe. Who needs everyone else? Blah, 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 blah. So as a villain, again, there's that kind of slow burn where like the first time I played through, I was like, oh yeah, he's really charismatic, voiced by, who was he voiced by again?
Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen, incredible time. The most villainy looking villain, right? In just this massive room with, a planet going on in the behind, just a chair with a screen, smoking a cigarette all the time with crazy glowy eyes. But the way he communicates with you, right? There's a part of you that is just like, well, maybe, he is, spending billions of credits to not change me, right? To not put a control chip in. That's really cool of this guy, right? To build me up and then put us into a ship, the Normandy SR2 with so many of my old crew. Like, it can't be that bad. He's putting us all towards this end goal of saving mankind. And then the second that kind of happens, rug pulled out, man. Fucking bad mamma jamma.
He had this gravitas. Like the first time he shows up on screen and you hear Martin Sheen's voice, you're like, oh, damn. Because, you get a lot of, big name actors, right, who end up voice acting for games, and sometimes they're just kind of, meh. Mm-hmm. They're there to get a paycheck, and then they're gone. But, oh, man. And he ate the scene up every time he was in it. And his voice, it was just the perfect voice. And Martin Sheen delivered his lines so good.
I'm 5 steps ahead of you at all time. Well, even in Mass Effect 3, when you're technically winning against him, he's still, until the very end, he keeps his cool. He's handing stuff over to you like, whatever, there's nothing you can do with this that I haven't already done. Like, sure, here's this piece of technology for you. I don't fucking care, It's just a really cool dude. And again, that now when you play through it, because again, I've played through the whole series 10 times. Going into it, you're well aware he's this fucking evil dude. But I keep looking back at the first time you play, at least my first playthrough, again with that. I did all the side stuff in Mass Effect 1, and you're like, you go into Mass Effect 2 going, Cerberus sucks ass. They're so fucking awful. And I remember, seriously, just how abrasive it was to be like, well, maybe it's not all bad, right? It was just so beautifully written that I fell into that trap my first time. And then it was that slow build of, oh, he's not totally honest here with me. And wait, what's this? Nope, that's not great either. Oh, okay. He's really fucked up and knows everything. Got it.
Well, and I really like that the way that he plays it. And I don't know if this was writing or Martin Sheen bringing this to the table
Got to
or
be
what.
both.
He never loses his cool.
Ever.
He is always like, "That's fine. I
You'll
I got
regret
other
that, I
plans."
guess. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He never loses his cool until that final encounter, right? Where you're able to, if you select the right dialogue options, where it kind of cracks that what is it, that pride and that kind of shell of infallibility that he's built around himself, and he
Mm-hmm.
goes, maybe I am being controlled by the Reapers,
Yeah, and
right?
that's not till the very last second.
Yeah,
He's
and he
alive.
still doesn't. He doesn't shout. He doesn't get angry. He's
No.
just like, "Oh,
Oh.
maybe you're right."
Yeah.
But I've already chosen this, so this is the way we're gonna go. And the interpretation, right? Because you seem to think that he plays this all along, and I think that's true. But the interpretation I got was maybe is that he wasn't what's it called, indoctrinated until after the events
Oh
of
yeah,
Mass
yeah,
Effect
yeah.
2. And that's when everything started to take a turn, because that's when they were experimenting with indoctrination and things like that.
And
But
controlling and whatnot.
also, and I think this is also what makes a good villain, right? Is interpretation, right? They say different things to different people, and they can glean different things of like, or maybe even imperceptible plans where you can make your own interpretation of that. Maybe he had been indoctrinated the whole time, and the reason that he brought Shepard back to life was because a part of him knew that he was indoctrinated and knew that Shepard needed to be there because Cerberus was already lost to the Reapers. And so Shepard needed to be there to guide humanity.
Which then leads into like like that subtext of like, well, maybe he wasn't all bad. At some point, the
Yeah.
idea of I need this universe, this galaxy has these crazy alien races that are so much more technologically advanced. Like out of the gate saying, hey, I need to build a thing that helps us improve ourselves in the galaxy makes sense. But yeah, somewhere
Yeah.
along the line, you know, power,
Well, and
what is that?
even
Power corrupts absolutely. All power, whatever that fucking
yeah,
thing is. Yeah.
absolute power
Power
corrupts
corrupts
absolutely.
absolutely. Yes.
Well, and I mean, you have this moment where Shepard, after confronting the elusive man, is standing in front of the child and goes, "Oh, so what you're telling me is that the elusive man actually had it right. That this is our way forward." Because depending on the choice that you make, right? The choice that I made was to assimilate with the Reapers and essentially become God, which was what the elusive man wanted to do.
I blow
And
everything
so,
up, man. Bam.
and I mean, like, but that's fair, right? Because it is, he had this goal and he wasn't, and I think, like what we were talking about earlier, makes him a good villain because he wasn't all bad.
No. Well,
Like, he had chose to do heinous things because it was the goal that he wanted, and that goal was actually a good goal, right? To bring humanity
correct.
into the future and to save humanity.
But at some point, that switched from improving humanity to
Ruling.
ruling. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, that's the other brilliant thing with the writing, right? Is due to the fact of how a BioWare game works, you
Hmm.
have options of dialogue. It's
Right.
not you can be like fucking headbutting him the entire game, and he has
Yeah.
ways of communicating around that and still being
Yeah.
not getting worked up and like, hey man, we're gonna get through this. You just gotta trust the process. Or you can go through it just being a total shithead and just like being trying to be funny the whole time, and he has a whole different dialogue working your way around that.
Hmm.
Or you can be 100% like, yeah man, fucking point me in a direction, I got you, and he's got a whole different set of dialogue for that. So it's almost like
Yeah.
he's three different written villains at the same time, but each of them works in that slow build of like, even if you know he's a bad guy, he still is just so smooth with those words.
Yeah.
Fucking
I
brilliant.
really like the elusive man. I think that he's on my list too,
Yeah,
because I do think he is one of the best antagonists in gaming.
I agree.
And I hadn't played Mass Effect until just recently with
Correct.
our game club playthrough. And I was astounded at how good his character was. Just brilliant.
I'm glad, because like when we did the Protagonists and I had Shepard on that one, because again, it's a lot of, depending on your choices and whatnot, you had some back and forth with that. So I'm really glad antagonistically nailed it first try. You were all in on Elusive Man. Makes me happy.
I really all am. And it was from the moment he hit the screen in Mass Effect 2, I was like, oh.
Look at that. The character design, the voice acting, everything. Yeah. He's that grandiose, just.
Yeah, he has that theatrical aspect.
Oh,
that makes
so
you
good.
go, okay. And I think there is I think good villains, they do have an element of the theatrics around them.
They have to.
Because those are the ones you remember. But it's the same with heroes, right? You kind of have to have a little theatricality. It
has to be something interesting going on. Well, who's next on your list here, buddy?
I'm going to jump around on my list.
All right.
A little bit. Okay. I want to talk about King Alot from Demon Souls.
King Alot.
Yeah. So King Alot is kind of the main antagonist of Demon Souls. The premise of Demon Souls being that there was this demon that was imprisoned. And then this king came along. He had this shining city, and he essentially fell sway to the whisperings of this demon and gave into it. And then this fog came in, overtook the kingdom, all this stuff, right? The kingdom fell into corruption. And the cool thing about him is, like, he's kind of talked a lot about along the way. As this villain, and just like in every other Souls game, most of the story is told through item descriptions and things like that.
Yeah.
And King Alot was actually a usurper. He usurped the throne from King Doran, I believe. And he comes into power, and so when you actually get there and you fight him, he is this regal figure in all white armor wielding this huge blade, and you can see this little wisp of energy coming off of him and kind of like ascending up into the sky. As you fight him, he has one of the most terrifying abilities of any boss I've ever fought in any Soulsborne game, because he can literally suck the experience out of you and make you lose levels.
That's insane.
Yes. And so it is this crazy, insane ability. I get why they never put it in again, because it would be infuriating. It's very well telegraphed, so you can avoid it pretty easily. But you get hit by it, and you're like, oh, F.
So if you do things wrong, it literally gets harder and harder every time you fight him because you're a lower level.
Yes.
That's insane. Yes. Sweaty Spooks in chat brings up a great question, though. But does he have fried chicken? He does kind of look like Colonel Sanders. I'm not going to lie to you.
I mean, that's true. I think if he had fried chicken, he would then no longer be a villain. He would actually be a protagonist.
I agree with that.
But the cool thing is so after you beat him, that's not the end, right? You descend to the demon. You have to jump through, you fall through this well, you come, and as you enter the demon to make your final decision, you actually come upon the true form of King Alot. Because the thing that you fought previously was a puppet.
That's so fucking cool. So with the power he got, he made like a demon copy of himself to control everything?
Essentially, so the true form of King Alot is this corrupted, putrid figure that can hardly move, is essentially a slug on the ground.
Oh my god.
And you kill him in one hit.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
It is this idea of he is portraying himself. He's got this puppet that he's presenting to the world, but the true form of him is this corrupted, fallen being that's
pay no heed to the man behind the curtain. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's badass.
It was a really, really cool moment. Like, it was freaking fantastic.
What was that first time going through that reveal like?
It was really cool because, like, it's telegraphed to you that this is going to happen because you can kind of see, like, puppet strings off of King Alon when you fight him.
Yeah.
And so you're like,
that's weird.
You kind of get the idea, and I was expecting a second phase. There's only the one phase to this boss, and so you're kind of expecting the second phase. And Tina that was pretty funny, Sweaty. That was a good one. And Protagonists is what Sweaty wrote in the chat. And so it's telegraphed to you. So then you descend, and the I forget it's the Fire Maiden in Dark Souls, but I can't remember what she's called. And I think it's just the Shrine Maiden or something like that. She kind of tells you, she goes, you're going to go and confront the king. He's inside here. That was just a puppet. So you kind of get that moment. But it was just really cool. Like, it's really cool that it's like they told you the story. You kind of know something's going on because you're waiting for that second phase. But then you kill him in one hit and you're like, because he has like a regular boss health bar. And you're like, okay, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like he's going to turn into like, oh gosh, what was the... Nito, who is like the Lord of Death and Bones from Dark Souls 1. So I was kind of anticipating something like that, and then you hit him and you kill him, and you're like,
oh,
is he going to come back to life? Like, as soon as I turn my back, is he going to spring? But that was it. And it was like, okay, that was awesome. That was awesome. And then you're presented with the choice of, do you fall into the corruption of the demon, or do you imprison it again behind its seals?
Oh, it's so fucking cool, dude. I love reveals like that, man. Oh, yeah. It's so badass.
It was really good.
I'm never going to play through these, but I love listening to you talk about it. I get so infuriated. I don't have the blood pressure to handle these games. But every time you talk about it, anytime I've played with you, I think that's the key. It's co-op, but like, right. It's just such a fucking cool world, man.
And Demon Souls is I really like the remake. The remake was really, really good. Like, I've kind of been itching to go back to it because I've never played the original. I don't think I would ever go back and play the original because at this point it's like 20 years old.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it just doesn't have that nostalgia factor for me. But the remake was just so good. So good. It's a good... The Soulsborne games are just the best.
Yeah, incredible. The writing team over there is just like on a whole nother level, man.
Well, and I mean, the thing is like it's all... The story is all told through item descriptions.
Yeah, you have to be paying attention or else it's just a really hard game.
Yeah. I wish I should have put Bale on this list because Bale was a pretty badass.
Is that the fucking dragon thing that you love?
Yeah.
I remember that.
But that's mostly because of, oh gosh, I can't remember the guy's name. The guy that you bring with you as a spirit summon who's shouting in her ear like Captain Ahab and his white whale. Bale! Curse you, Bale! I'll pierce your rotted hide. It's just...
Oh, dude, shivers. Ooh, you made my micro penis erect, dude. It's pulsing through my body outside right now. I'm about to cry cum, dude. All right. Is it back to me, brother?
Yeah, it's back to you.
A couple questions for you, Russ.
Yep.
Do you like horses?
Pina coladas?
Do you like getting caught in the rain?
I do. I like all three of those things.
Okay. Do you like horses?
I do like horses.
Do you like billowing cloaks?
I, of course, like billowing cloaks.
Do you like swords?
I think you know the answer to this.
Magic.
Yes.
Dragons.
I mean, who do you think you're talking to?
I know. That's why. I'm playing to the crowd here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you're playing back in the day through an RTS series, right?
Okay.
Real-time strategy.
I think I know which one you're going with here.
The third installment comes out, and it's very.
Are you about to steal? You're about to steal one from my list, aren't you?
It's very story driven, right?
You son of a bitch!
I didn't know if this is on your list or not. It's a very story driven game, right? You're meeting all these really cool characters. They're so heroic and badass, you know. And there's one in particular, this prince, right?
Oh, you jackwagon!
You know who's just like. One would say maybe one of the best paladins ever, right?
Yeah.
Who finds himself on a path of trying to prove himself too hard. One would say Icarus is himself into a dark hole of corruption.
Flying too close to the sun.
Flying too close to the sun and finding himself in a fiery hole, an icy hole. Let's say that, an icy hole of corruption, taking things too far, murdering his family, and then years later becoming one of the most beloved raid bosses in an MMO ever, which was an insane reveal. And of course, we're talking about Arthas Menethil, also known as the Lich King from the
This
Warcraft.
was the next one I was going to talk about too.
I did not expect this to be on your list. I'm going to be honest.
But such a good villain because you actually get to experience his story.
Yes.
And that fall from grace.
His story, you get to play it through the RTS of him realizing this plague going through his land, through his people, and he just wants to do whatever he can to protect it and prove himself to his dad. And these, you know, this source of power, you know, comes up and is like, hey, you know, come with me and I can help you do whatever you want to do, which pushes him to then just start to teeter off that deep end as people around him are noticing this and trying to hold on to him, and he pushes them away, right? And the more you watch the story play out and go through it, and there's a couple incredible dungeons in World of Warcraft where you it's time walking, right? Well, not time walking. Time walking was later on, but the Sands of Time, right? Where you actually can go back in time and watch all this happen in a dungeon as your character and whatnot. Watching the fall of his mind and seeing where it made, again, like we were talking about great antagonists, where it makes sense in his mind. I am helping people by slaughtering all of them by the hundreds. This will save, by killing these few, I will save the many, which pushes him further down the line, corrupting him so much, making him become in charge of all the undead of the world and corrupting things and making the Banshee Queen Sylvanas and fucking over so many people and not dropping his fucking mount for me after 12 years.
Not that you're bitter.
Not that I'm bitter at all. But I mean, there's a couple things in there that I've missed, but all in all, Arthas as the human paladin becoming evil is an incredible antagonist to the story of Warcraft in general. And then the next level of that as the Lich King, sending the scourge out against all of Azeroth, trying to completely take over everything, as a raid boss, mechanically, when you defeat him, the cinematic of as he's dying, the ghost of his father who he murdered comes to him. And it's this beautiful moment of like, I thought I was doing good, and the father understanding that and them force ghosting together, right? And disappearing. And he has this full circle of ending.
See, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yes.
It's very, it reminds me very much of Darth Vader, right?
It's very much, it's almost hand in hand, the story of Darth Vader. Absolutely. I need to save. This is the only way to save the people I love is to kill all the younglings, right? And by younglings, we mean everyone in Stratholme.
I really love it, and I think I didn't know that. I've never played. Well, I've played World of Warcraft. I've never gone through raid boss. Yeah. I played World of Warcraft 3 because I had originally read the companion book that was his story, which was okay, but really it was more the story that I was interested in of this person who was a paladin, who was this shining example of good.
And not just a paladin, very quickly becoming the paladin. If he had not been corrupted, he would absolutely have been the most powerful, greatest hero paladin to ever exist in the Warcraft universe, lore-wise.
And that corruption, that fall from grace, all by seeking, it's a very Darth Vader story, right? This hero who becomes the villain because he wants to find a way to save the world, and he makes bad choices along the way because he thinks it's the only way to save the world. And that the sword and the helm, and then you also have the orc wizard dude that's kind of imprisoned, and that kind of embroilment and meshing of those souls together. I was that's why he's on my list.
Yeah.
Because Arthas Menethil is just, it's a cool story of this intensely good character that's like, okay, I'm gonna make this decision, and it's the slow roll downward to where he ends up murdering the people that he loves the most, and then releasing this, because the whole reason that he had done it, right, was to counteract the scourge, because all the people that he loved, his country, his people, his kind of other father figure, all fell away, and yet here we have this character who is now doing these things, and then releases the scourge on the people that he loved the most, right? I mean, doing the very thing and becoming the very thing that he fought the most against. I love that kind of story. It's just fascinating. And FUD has disappeared on me. But I really love when we can have a villain that goes in that direction. So I'm going to move on to my next one. I'm going to save this one. The one I think I want to talk about next is Dracula from the Castlevania series. And I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and I'm gonna include the animated version as well, simply because it is part and parcel of the same. I really love. First of all, I'm just a huge Dracula fanboy. From Bram Stoker's Dracula, I really even love Dracula Untold, which is maybe not a lot of people's favorite, but I kind of like that backstory and how they introduce him.
Sorry, Ethan hit his head.
Oh, I just started talking about Dracula. I finished up talking about Arthas and moved on to my next one.
Oh, okay. Then I'm done, I guess.
Well, you walked out of the room.
My son hurt himself.
I wanted to fill the dead air.
I know. Okay, go ahead.
Did you have more that you wanted to say about Arthas?
Just a little bit.
The Lich King.
Just from things we were talking about at the beginning, again, that makes a great antagonist, right? Is the look, right? As a paladin,
that's
incredibly great look. Luscious locks of gold hair flowing, right? Really fucking glorious armor with eagle crests coming off the side, a giant hammer, right? But then as the Lich King as a design, right? That arm, that just dark, that black with the blue and the ice in it, the billowing cape, Frostmourne as a sword itself with the ice constantly breathing like the sword's alive, right? His fucking undead dragon, right? Like,
and the helmet,
the voice change from him being a paladin, the almost floating ice eyes, right? But and then on top of that, just the payoff as a fan, right? Playing through Warcraft 3, right? And then World of Warcraft launches. And then the first expansion's Burning Crusade, right? You're like, this is really cool. And then that first trailer hits for Wrath of the Lich King, right? And the ice breaks and the dragon comes out. And the first time you hear the voice and see him, it's just like, oh my God. Like everyone's favorite character from Warcraft 3 was the big bad, right? And it was such a massive moment as gamers. Like it's just one of those, and that was 18 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
18 years ago. And it still sticks out. And random fun fact, the pre-expansion event, which sent the Scourge out, and how this event worked was there was a couple of them, and if they touched a character, that character got sick, and if that character touched another character, that character got sick and eventually killed people. And like there's something, how it expanded so quickly, it ended up killing like almost everyone in the game. And like to this day, people use the statistics and the numbers from that, like doctors and shit, to like look at how diseases spread just from how that event played in World of Warcraft.
That's really cool.
It's really cool. Yeah. So, but yeah, I just want to touch on that because another part of being a cool antagonist is the look and being, the gravitas. Anyway,
well,
Dracula go ahead.
Castlevania. Yeah, I mean, and that's part of why I like him is his look, right? And in every iteration, for me specifically, and I know probably a lot of people aren't going to agree with this, Lords of Shadow. I actually really loved Lords of Shadow. I really loved Lords of Shadow 2. I was a little disappointed in it, but you got to play as Dracula, so whatever. But the look of him, even if we go back to Castlevania with the pointy mustache, the typical villain look,
absolutely.
Right? That pointy mustache and that pointy goatee and the long flowing hair, the pale skin. And you could never kill him. Like he showed up time after time after time after time. And the funny thing is I don't remember ever like a Castlevania game where he was doing anything other than chilling in his castle.
Yeah. Legitly chilling.
Right. And being like, come at me, bro.
Yeah.
But I really loved what they did with Castlevania, the animated series and Netflix.
Oh, buddy.
So good.
Legitly one of the best shows I've ever watched in my life.
And like that moment and that forlornness of like he realizes what he's done and he's just so tired of living that he just wants to die and be with his wife again. Was just beautiful and chilling. And then you have Lords of Shadow where you play as Dracula. You play and you find out that he's a Belmont, right? But you're playing as him to begin with. And you're going through this thing where Lucifer has actually been corrupting him all along and wants him to be freed, right? And so Lucifer is the main protagonist of those two games, who has led I can't remember. I want to say Adrian Belmont, but I can't remember if he becomes Dracula down this road of corruption, which seems to be a theme that we share of like, he was trying to do a good thing. And essentially what he does is he takes on these corrupted forms of these celestial beings that ascended and left their true nature behind, their evil nature behind. And taking their power and their abilities and bringing it into himself and growing. And then it's actually in the DLC where you find that he becomes a vampire so that he can go to essentially hell and keep this demon from escaping. But a human can't enter hell, right? He has to become that monster to enter, and that's how he originally becomes this vampire. And then on to the second one where he's descended into corruption, and you're confronted by this mech that breaks through the wall, and then you end up finding an angel, and like it's just cool. Like the second one, I wasn't a big fan of the stealth mechanics, but as you become more powerful and you gain your blood whip and your void sword and the abilities, and you start to feel like Dracula again, is just all around very cool. It's a power fantasy thing, right? That's kind of the cool thing about the villain. They have no limits placed on them. And that's a fun fantasy to have. Right? As a hero, you have rules, you have restrictions of what you can and can't do. But a villain really doesn't have any. No. And that's kind of the fun part about villains, is that they can do whatever they want.
Well, and especially Dracula in the sense of Castlevania, like is at such another level, even in the, in the show, how big this war he's created has gotten, and his fucking face in the sky, you're all doomed and just melting everyone. And, just the sheer power and like we were mentioning, just how he chilling. Like, he is so powerful. He has no reason. There's no one that's more like grandiose yet not like, he is surrounded by this giant fucking castle, right? Rooms that are massive, huge, like everything is so over the top with this guy, but him himself is just like, hey, what's going on? What are we doing? Cause he knows, cause when it comes time to do the shit, right? It's just like, what the fuck just happened? Like a switch clicks.
Well, and it's that theatricality that everything around him is this. And it's I kind of really like him because he is he is the most powerful being on the face of the earth
ever. Yeah.
And now he's bored.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And he's like, whatever. I could care less. And he doesn't care until they kill his wife, at least in the show, right?
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. Dracula has a big nostalgia factor for me because as a kid, like, I love monsters, and that's kind of where my love of villains has come from. I really love monsters.
Yes.
I love their design. I love their look. When I draw, I usually draw monsters. Like, my wife is like, "What's wrong with you? Why is all your stuff demonic and stuff like that?"
Yeah,
I'm like,
monster cock. Yeah.
Awesome. Monster micro.
Yeah.
And so it's just, so Dracula has that kind of nostalgia factor for me because he was the first one that I was like, oh man, vampires are cool.
Yes.
And not Twilight vampires, but real vampires.
What's the thing is, like, there's been so many iterations of what a vampire is and even what Dracula is. But like specifically the Castlevania is just like, it's all the good stuff taken away from, from all these other versions. From these other versions of Dracula, right? And then added onto it to just make this, like, you're just fucking masterpiece of a dude that's, like you said, is just so powerful. He's bored. It's like One Punch Man, except not trying to be a superhero,
Yeah, I mean, it is very much in that same thing, and I really love One Punch Man probably for that same reason, right? I really like power fantasies, and I like power fantasies especially associated with villains, because I feel like sometimes they should be the most powerful thing.
Yeah. What I like when villains are supposed to be the most powerful thing, and then they are. Like, the amount of games that exist where they're really cool, and you get to that end boss fight, and it's just like, oh. But like, when they're legitly like who they say they are, oh my God, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, big fan of that.
Great show.
Big fan of
and
that.
Again, with the show on top of it, it was great just as the games, but like like the show on top of it, oh my fucking God, dude. That we just a couple months ago finished that through with Lisa. It was her first time watching. I was like, you have to watch this show. And she was so just because she's not someone that likes like dark stuff and gore, but like how it was written, and like Dracula is one of her favorite characters. Like, to add on to your point, like that's not something she's into, and she was just blown away and completely sucked into it.
Yeah. And it is. I cheated a little bit by including the show, but he is from gaming.
It's there.
So.
Yeah, but the show is based. Yeah, it's such a good tool to have for you.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your next one?
My next one, I am gonna go with. Oh, so many choices. There's the obvious one. I think. Yeah, I'm going to go with this. This was a surprising game that got a lot of people on one of my lists, right? Of Protagonists, right? Was from this game. And one of my antagonists is also going to be from this game. It is also from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the original Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and that's going to be General Shepard. There's Shepards everywhere, right? General Shepard, as everyone's aware who's played through the campaign, right? This gruff soldier, badass mustache, right? Who's there with you, commanding you as you go through the whole game, right? And if you go back and play through again, you can see the hints happening, which I love when that happens. But the flip, right? out of nowhere turn where you've won. Everything's together. You're getting ready to exfil on the helicopter. You have all the intel you need. You have the bad guy. And then he turns around with a fucking magnum and blasts you in the fucking face, shoots Ghost, throws you both in a fucking ditch, right? It was such, I mean, to this day, I remember sitting in the basement at my parents' house on the Xbox 360, just jaw on the floor. I think the first like event that happens after that, where you're supposed to like throw the knife and fight him off and whatnot. Yeah. I failed it horribly because I was so just like, I don't understand how this could, my brain couldn't handle it. But just, I mean, the build up to the whole story of him being on your side and giving the intel you need. But also, you know, when you go back and look, some things don't go right. And he plays it off in such a way that now that you know, it's obvious. But the writing was so well done at the time. You're like, yeah, no, it's just shit happens. It's war, right?
Right.
And the chase sequence and the fucking being able to, as I was mentioning earlier, something that's great about Antagonists is the fight and how good it feels to defeat them. And pulling a knife out of your own chest while he's wrestling with Ghost.
That's pretty cool.
And then throwing it through his own fucking face. Pretty badass. Not a big thing to talk about, right? There's not like all the facets of Dracula and the elusive man and whatnot, but just as a linear shooter story, right? He was an incredible antagonist. And
well, it's the betrayal, right?
It's the betrayal that just like, it's just, what the fuck? Nothing had done that before in gaming to that level. It was just so like, what the fuck? Just magnum to the face.
Well, you've got this character who's your friend all along the way, and it makes them so much worse when there's that betrayal because as a player, you've come to trust them.
Exactly.
And then now they've betrayed you.
And on top of that, they're really cool. The voice is incredible. Like, he's right there side by side a couple times talking you through stuff, and like, he's just really fucking cool and you love him. He's older. He's, you know, grizzled. He's the vet in the group, you know. Yeah. You trust him with everything. And the second he says when he says jump, you say how high through the campaign and you're all in.
Yeah. So if we're ready to move on to mine, I'm gonna
That's a short one, but I love it.
I'm gonna piggyback off of the betrayal character, right?
Oh, okay.
Because mine, and I'm gonna kind of do 2 for 1 here.
Okay.
So this character, he has become your source of power through this game. He has been there holding your hand. In fact, your spirits have been bonded together because you are taken to the top of the Black Gate. Your throat is cut. You have been killed. And here comes this spirit because they are trying to summon this spirit again to presumably create another ring. And he bonds with you, and now you've become the Grave Walker. A man held alive by the spirit, the wraith that dwells within him, through which he has his own power. And together, you make a new ring of power to combat Sauron.
Ooh, goosebumps.
Right? And through the first game, he's been your constant companion, always whispering in your ear. You're amassing power together, building an orc army. In fact, at the very end of the game, you face one of the other villains on my list, which is the arch nemesis that you have created along the way, that you now fight on a battlefield of orcs as your army of orcs clashes with Sauron's army of orcs, and whoever the orc is that you face the most amount of times, that has caused you the most amount of grief, is now there before you, leading his own army of orcs with other elite orcs, right? Which is cool in and of itself. We're talking about the Nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor, right? Whoa. Where you create your own villain through your actions in the game, which is just phenomenal. Awesome.
Yes.
But then in the second game, you've created your own ring of power. You've brought it together, and eventually, at the very end, Celebrimbor betrays you, leaves you because you won't do what he wants you to do, which is to take Sauron's ring and make it your own, right? To take Sauron and make him your slave. And so he ends up leaving you dying to then join with this elf who now has that same vengeance burning within them. And so you take one of the 9 rings from the race and put it on your own finger so that now you can raise your army. And because Sauron and Celebrimbor kind of become one, Sauron has absorbed Celebrimbor into himself and bonded him to himself to increase his strength. And now you are one of the race, one of the 9, now leading a civil war within Mordor. Like that moment, that flip, that betrayal of this constant companion throughout the entire game with you, who you had both had such similarities because Sauron had made him betray and kill his own family. You had done the same, and now here you are, and now you're fighting against one another because of that betrayal. So cool. So Celebrimbor from Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor and the Arch Nemesis are 2 of the villains that are on my list for that reason.
Oh my god, dude, what a great! I'd like knowing you. It's obvious that was on your list, but I wasn't even thinking about it. Those games, it's so cool. Well, one, obviously, they're incredible games, right?
I really love those games.
But
yeah,
there's certain games that people are always discovering, right? And that series is one that's happening all the time. I'm seeing it a ton on TikTok Live recently, and I think anytime something Lord of the Ringsy happens, I think people look up. They're like, I want to play something Lord of the Ringsy, and like that game obviously pops up. I'll try it.
Right.
You know, Rings of Power with that new animated movie that was just announced, right?
War of the Rohirrim,
which looks incredible, right? When the Hobbit movies came out, I noticed a bunch of people jumping. Like, it's just one of the series that it's so many people discover it, and yeah, for the reasons you mentioned, it's so fun to. I love watching videos of people reacting to like movies or music or games, right? For their first time, that like I've never seen this before. I'm going to experience it. I love watching react videos. It's my guilty little pleasure late at night on YouTube, right? And yeah, that moment occurring for people and just watching that downfall and you having to build yourself up and discovering this system and trying to come back from that, and the rings and everything is just like, it's so much fucking fun to watch and to experience yourself for the first time was just, it was something you'd never seen before. And that's a system I don't think anyone's really used again, even though everyone should.
It's patented. So
that makes sense. That makes sense because it's fucking incredible.
So I think they're planning on using the Nemesis system in the Wonder Woman game that's supposed to be coming out. But yeah, it's patented by Monolith Studios, so you can't. But I really love the counterbalance, right? And it's one of those things that it's kind of something I'm exploring in my own book a little bit, of the Dark Lord versus the Bright Lord, of like, they're both bad. Like, they're both evil. They're both committing heinous acts in the pursuit of their own goals. And even though he's an elf and the shining example of light, he is, in fact, evil. And I love, you get those little hints because, like, as you take control of these orcs, every time you can see the fear in their eyes as you grab them by the face and stuff on me, no. And you enter into their mind and you take them for yourself, and it's freaking awesome.
It's
freaking awesome.
And it's gorgeous to look at. Like, and again, the characters, all the orcs look fucking amazing. The main character, like, everyone just looks so fucking cool in this game. And I
get that it is not exactly true to the lore, but it is
it gets to a point where if it's cool enough, who gives a shit?
Yeah, that's the way I feel about it.
You know, at one point in time, Lord of the Rings itself didn't exist, so who fucking cares?
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Every word in the English language was made up at one point in time. Make up your own goddamn words. Why not?
Yeah, I think it is a game worth playing, even if you love the lore, even if you feel like it's you like, they just messed it up so bad. Just play the game because it is a good freaking game.
That's it. If you are a massive Tolkien fan, there's enough going on in there that you will appreciate what's happening, and you will still kick your feet and giggle when things happen, right? If you don't give a shit about Lord of the Rings at all, you're a terrible person. I hate you. But even if you don't care about Lord of the Rings at all, as a game itself, it holds up so well. Those came out, how long ago was that? And they're still some of the prettiest games out there.
Minute.
Yeah.
In a minute.
Let me look it up.
It's been, so let's see. Shadow of War,
2017.
which was the second game. Yep. I was doing the math in my head because it came out a year after Lindsay and I got married.
Oh, that poor girl had to deal with that.
Actually,
2014 was Shadow of Mordor. 10 years ago.
Actually, she really loves those games.
I believe it. But dude, Shadow of Mordor came out 10 years ago. It still looks really good.
It's still a good game.
It's a great game.
Still a good game. I still play it on occasion.
So glad it's on your list.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So what's your next one?
My next one, right? Because I think we're going to end the night on Vanderland, right? Eventually, I think that's the last one we have to do of the night.
Okay, so let me know when you want to get to that point, because I have a lead in to Dutch.
Okay. Well, then I guess let's do it. We're only an hour and a half in. Who cares? We'll see how we're feeling, buddy.
Only an hour and a half.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Whatever. Fuck it. I don't give a shit. So there comes a moment in time. A game launches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting little mechanic. You have a handheld, your arm is a gun, right? And you shoot, let's say, a portal, right?
Okay.
And it's blue. And you shoot another one, and it's orange, and it connects the 2 points.
It's a good one.
Creating this puzzle game system, right? Where you are working your way through these different rooms, towers, escaping into the inner workings of the building using this portal gun, right? To figure out really well-crafted puzzles. And in the entire time, there's this beautiful synthetic voice just talking down to you the entire fucking time. Telling you that it's worth it. There'll be cake, and also telling you are worthless and you should kill yourself, and laughing and singing and again being condescending and incredible at the same time. And of course, we're talking about GLaDOS from Portal.
Wait, is that who we're talking about?
That's exactly what we're talking about. One, obviously, at the very end, the character design of just what actually, if you really look at it, is actually shaped like a person hanging upside down, but it's all just computer monitors and wires hooked up, right? And then her head swerving around. The boss fight's really fun. You end up being thrown on the moon and coming back and whatnot. But her just being the synthetic voice, just the inflections of it and everything is just such a beautiful addition to what could be. The gameplay is very fun, but if you didn't have her voice going on at the same time, it could get really monotonous. And you just got excited every time that chirp would happen before she'd talk, even though you know she's going to talk nothing but mad shit to you the whole time. You just loved it, and fucking powering batteries with potatoes and whatnot. And it's just from beginning to end, trying to be your friend and your enemy at the same time. And then obviously being the big bad by the end was just an incredible experience. And just one of those game designs that I don't know how that idea came to be. Because it's...
Wait, so are you talking about GLaDOS or Wheatley?
I'm talking about GLaDOS.
Okay. Because Wheatley was your friend in the beginning too.
Well, GLaDOS does this funny thing where sometimes she's your buddy.
Right.
I didn't mean what I said before. I think you really can do this, and I'm proud of you. And then seconds later, you stupid, blah, 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 blah. Just an incredible character. And the boss fight, again, I've tried to talk about with every one of my antagonists, is how it feels to defeat them, and that feels really good. And then the end credits, the beautiful song, "This was a triumph," as she sings to you right through the whole credits of the game. Absolutely incredible.
And then there's no cake.
And then there's no cake. The cake was, in fact, a lie.
A lie.
Just incredible.
I really do love the voice. I've never played Portal. But I really want to experience it at some point, specifically because of GLaDOS and then Wheatley, because they are both really good villains.
I believe Portal 2 was co-op, right?
It is. Yes.
It's tempting.
We're gonna do a co-op play of that.
Buddy, I don't think our friendship can handle a puzzle game like that. We barely survived Halo ODST together.
You know, we should play, and we should. Oh, hey, whoa, hey, whoa,
hey, whoa,
hey, whoa!
whoa.
I don't know.
That's right.
It's gone. I think we need to do like It Takes Two or A Way Out or
I'd love to do A Way Out.
Portal 2. We should do some of those games.
Okay. I'd be so down to do A Way Out.
Okay.
All
right.
Let's do You Go. And then my other one's pretty short. Should we just go for it?
I think okay. I actually don't have who you think I have on my list.
Okay.
Instead, I have Micah Bell.
Oh, fantastic switcheroo there.
Yeah. So RDR2, right?
Yes.
You're playing as Arthur Morgan.
Red Dead Redemption 2, the greatest game ever made. I've
started replaying through it because we talked about it, and then it was funny because you messaged me. So I got a call from FUD the other day. I was not awake for it, but I got a call from FUD. And so, or was it a text message? I know you called me the other day.
I called you.
Anyway, and you were like, hey, so I have this itch. We need to play Red Dead online, right? And I was like, dude, I have been itching to play that for forever. We need to play this. And so I started replaying through it, and then I also realized, because I had started my online game again too, prepping for, we're supposed to get together tomorrow as a community and play around in RDRO. And I said, I need to get back into the online. So I started playing on a PlayStation and forgot that they didn't have crossplay.
Correct.
So I switched back over to the PC for RDRO. But Micah Bell, so you're playing as Arthur Morgan, right? Which, depending on how you play him, because you can play him in any way that you want, he can be the most sadistic killer the entire West ever knew, the biggest serial killer, or you can play him as kind of the gallant ruffian, the gallant bandit, right?
Yeah, the Robin Hood to...
Right.
Yeah.
Where he does these things because of his family, because of his community, and things kind of start to go off the rails. Now, I think you're going to talk about the reason a lot of those things go off the rails, or maybe the person who allows it the most to happen. But the person who instigates it, the first time you meet Micah, he is immediately antagonizing Arthur. But the first real one of the missions that you have with him is you go to this town in the middle of nowhere called Strawberry.
R.I.P.
And you find Micah in jail. And you free him from jail, and he immediately goes on a rampage through the town, killing nearly everybody in the town just to get to a cabin at the end of the road to kill a man and his girlfriend to reclaim his guns. And that is who Micah is. And throughout the entire rest of the game, he's always whispering in Dutch's ear, right? Dutch, one of your father figures, one of the people that you're closest to, right? The person that Arthur looks up to the most, and a very charismatic figure who has drawn in everybody in this gang that has become family to Arthur. And you constantly have Micah whispering in his ear going, oh man, let's go do this. And like he reminds me a little of Wormtongue, right, from Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Oh, 100%.
Always in Dutch's ear, going, "You can't trust these guys.
Yeah.
They don't believe in you like I believe in you.
You have no power here, Arthur Stormcrow."
Arthur Stormcrow." And I love one of the things that makes so the entire time you feel the same way Arthur does, where you're just getting
100%.
more and more frustrated, and you're getting frustrated with Dutch because you're like, why are you listening to him, Dutch?
Why do you not
Come
see
on,
what I see? Yes.
snap out of it. This guy is just bad news. And so eventually you're like, Micah has brought his own people into the gang and is like pushing everybody else out as things are really falling apart.
It starts slow and then again starts ramping up.
And antagonizes you into a fight in which then the Pinkertons come in and everybody that's left is basically killed, right? Leads to this confrontation. And so you make your way through, you're just trying to survive. Your horse ends up getting killed, which is one of the saddest moments in gaming I've ever experienced.
Wrecked.
And you're, depending on the choice that you make, you finally end up in a confrontation with Micah. I have never actually chosen to go back for the treasure. I have always chosen to get John out.
Same.
I cannot. In this playthrough, I'm playing Arthur a little more murderous. I'm gonna try to go back, but I know every time I try to go back.
If you go back to episode 126, or was it 125? One of those two episodes,
I don't remember.
we talk about Protagonists, and Arthur Morgan's on that list. So to have that back and forth here, go back and listen to that.
Yeah. And so you end up, the one that I always choose is to go with John. So you end up on this cliffside, and you end up in this fist fight with Micah, right? Which so good, right?
Incredible.
This down and dirty fist fight. Arthur is dying from tuberculosis, and he has sacrificed himself. He told John to get out while he stayed to fight off the Pinkertons, and then Micah ambushes him. They get into this fist fight, this brutal fist fight, and eventually it ends with both of them crawling towards the gun to get it, and Dutch is the one that picks it up. And in this moment, Dutch chooses to abandon Arthur. And then Arthur, so Arthur then dies from tuberculosis. He can't breathe anymore. He dies on the side of this mountain watching the sunrise.
Oh, I have never cried so hard in a game.
Beautiful moment. I cannot even. It is such good storytelling. And so you never get that catharsis of killing Micah until you play through the entire epilogue as John and get to the point to where you finally confront Micah on the mountainside as an old man, and then you're able to shoot him in the gut and let him die slow.
So fucking and again, the writing, which, as I've mentioned many times, Red Dead Redemption 2 is my favorite game of all time. The writing is unmatched. So the fact you had this character that you fucking hated, which any other game would have had you at the end of the game take him out. You do not get that satisfaction as Arthur, like Russ just mentioned. And that, as a gamer, fucking tears you to shreds. I was foaming at the mouth. I was rabid. And to have that like 9 hours later, when you're finally like, oh shit, oh my God, I'm going to be able to have this moment. Yes. Oh, what a beautiful payout.
Yeah, and I mean, it, like you said, right, a good villain, like, right, you'd love to hate.
Correct.
And Micah, I don't even love to hate him. I just hate him.
Well, and again, and spoiler, the next person we're going to be talking about is Dutch van der Linde from the same game. They're both very charismatic people, but from different directions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Micah Bell is charismatic in the like, why are you freaking out about this? Like, dude, it's all good, man. Don't even worry about it, buddy. What are you talking about? Don't even stress about it. Everything's going to be fine. You just got to trust the process,
Just have a little more faith.
They say the same thing, but in a slightly different way, right? Where, Dutch is more you got to have a little more faith. I've never led you astray. Stick with it. you know, and Micah is just the classic, like, come on, man, like everything's fine. Just chill out, brother. Like, what do you smoke a little? Like, it's all going to be fine, you know? And many missions after that first one you pick. And Arthur out of the gate, when you go to help Micah, is like, I don't want to fucking do it. Like, he sets up so well that you're already like, what's this guy's deal? And then that mission Strawberry, you go, this guy's fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key part of him as an antagonist, is he is just fucking nuts in a different way, which we're going to get into, where Dutch Van der Linde is also crazy, but in a more, I've slowly lost my mind to trying to keep everything in track, right? Where Micah is just, I want to fucking kill everything, make money, fuck bitches, and die happy, you know? And
he's the guy that you would almost like to party with.
100%. Because he tries to be your friend the whole game.
The next day you're like, why did I do that?
And we've all had that friend.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm that friend for you, Russ. I apologize.
I'm pretty sure I'm that friend for you, so I guess it goes both ways.
Damn, ruh-roh. What a bad setup there. But no, yeah, there's so many missions with Micah that, like, sometimes you're like, okay, I get this guy, right? And then the very next moment, just out of left field, is like, what the fuck just happened? You know, and he really does try to be friends with Arthur throughout the whole game. He is trying to get everyone on his side. I think he tries to
manipulate him into being friends with him.
Agreed. Yeah. But yeah, just again, brilliant written character that is just evil through and through out of the gate.
Yeah.
Whereas the last person we'll talk about, which I'm fine to jump back and forth between the two of them because they are almost the same thing, but written slightly different to create what happens, right? But so Dutch Van der Linde is the leader of the gang you're playing through. It's the Van der Linde gang, right? Through Red Dead Redemption 2, Arthur Morgan, John Marston, who you play as in Red Dead Redemption 1, which Dutch Van der Linde will continue over into that game, which I want to discuss as well. But from the beginning of the game, and this is that slow burn, right? Where he's not the bad guy. You are in a gang. Technically, you are bad guys, right? You're in a gang. You rob people. Right. You steal from trains. You rob banks. You murder people. Whatever you need to do to make sure your group is safe. And that's the thing, is it sells it out of the gate. I just do these things to keep my family safe,
right? Because
it does a really good job of showing the gang, which is not all people that fight. You have a cook. You have a preacher. You have a guy that's in charge of, money laundering and loans and whatnot. You have prostitutes with you. You have a lady that's just in charge of keeping the camp clean. Like, there are air quotes civilians, right, in your group, in your family. And Dutch's ability to, for the majority of the game, kind of seem like he's on track and caring about everybody and trying to keep everyone together. And just trust me, we've been through so many things. Red Dead Redemption 2 takes place in a moment in his life where he has been on top of things and keeping everyone safe, and things have finally gone just too far off the other end. Right. And you can slowly watch as this game progresses, him losing touch with the fact that he is losing, right? And it's a man who's always done the right thing for his group, continuously doing the wrong thing, and succumbing to madness through that, right? In a way of ignoring certain people, letting Micah Bell, who comes through, again, very charismatic, and whispers into his ear, hey man, trust me like they trust you. I have the answers for what's going to help you. And it starts slow and builds up into making Dutch the antagonist. He doesn't start as it, but as time goes, he becomes more and more. It's that perfectly written slow burn. Like, oh, there's something off here. You're on his side for quite a while, and you're like, oh, there's just something slowly happening here I'm not a fan of.
See, I don't know if I necessarily disagree with you. I think Dutch was always like that. I think Dutch is essentially a cult leader.
I do agree to that.
I think he had control. I mean, he took Arthur and John in when they were kids, brought them into his family, and built himself up. I mean, even to start out with, Dutch is always dressed very nicely.
Oh yeah.
All
No,
that money that comes in, he has the best camp. Even when the first things that you unlock, like as you're improving the camp, are
stuff
for
him.
Dutch.
Correct. Yeah, what I more mean is he is an antagonist to the world, specifically to Arthur Morgan.
Oh yeah.
From out of the gate it's the slow buildup of becoming the antagonist to Arthur, right? He is the father figure. He very much, they show, for a long time in the game, he cares about everyone personally, understands what they need, is a very good leader, especially saving John at the beginning, figuring out, what to do and moving camp and keeping things positive. But yeah, no, absolutely. It's a cult. He's the head of the family. That's the Vanderlyn gang. It's his name, right?
Yeah.
But like the slow burn of, how I should have worded it is becoming Arthur's antagonist.
Well, and I mean, because as it starts out, right, he is that father figure for Arthur. Arthur is under his sway.
Correct. Absolutely.
And it's only as things start to spin out of control, which is where Dutch then starts to become himself. But even in the beginning, right, with that train robbery, Arthur's like, why are we doing this? Hosea's like, why are we doing this? And he's like, no, this is going to be great. We're going to be set up for life. And then you see things, because things have already started to spin out of control, right? Correct. And even that before the game starts, Arthur's like, he killed a woman, which doesn't sound like Dutch. He killed her in a bad way, whatever that means. And he's like, that really doesn't seem like, this is not the Dutch that I know. And it's that slow, like you said, it's that slow realization that this person that you've known all your life is not the good person that they presented themselves to be, right? They are selfish. Yeah. And it's that parallel between, we get an idea, like you said, Micah and Dutch are essentially the same person. They have the same goals, which is they're out for themselves and they use other people to get there. And he's so good because eventually, right, he loses the gang. The gang is wiped off. And what does he do in RDR, the first one, right? He uses the native population and turns them into his new family.
Yep, correct.
And makes them do things for himself. And even when he's confronted, and you finally confront him in Red Dead Redemption, rather than let somebody take his life, he takes his own life.
Exactly.
And essentially becomes a martyr for a cause that wasn't his.
Which is, yeah, he, out of the whole time, he is so in belief of himself. And I like how you were that better than how I did the slow, instead of the slow burn to being the antagonist, it's the slow reveal, right?
Right.
The slow reveal of what he has always been. No, you're 100% right. You're absolutely right. That slow reveal of always being this guy, but it's worked successfully so much that it hasn't registered that it's wrong in the past.
Well, and there's that moment about midway through the game, right? Where you and Hosea and Dutch, and it's you, Arthur, Hosea, and Dutch. Not you, Arthur, Hosea, and Dutch, but you as Arthur, Hosea, and Dutch, and you go fishing, right?
Oh, incredible.
And Dutch is, because he realizes, oh crap, I'm about to lose these people, and I still need them. So we're gonna have a day. It's just going to be us, and we're going to relive old times. We're going to tell old stories.
Remember the good times you've had and how I've never let you down.
Good times, and I've never let you down. You just got to have a little more faith.
We need a little more money.
Just a little more money. Right, because that's the thing he's been dangling in front of them. And it's these little comments. I love that it's not something that's like big story moments or things like that. It's these little comments that give you this insight into what Dutch has been doing the whole time, because they're like, Dutch, we had enough money. Like, there was this property that we were looking at buying, but Dutch was like, oh no, we don't want this property.
Yeah.
You know, and And it's this entire thing of like, but it's not just like thrown in your face. It's these little things that give you that insight to his character, that he's been stringing them along, that really he's using them to amass wealth for himself. And I wonder if his plan wasn't the whole time, because that's essentially what he does in the end, is runs off with Micah and takes everything, takes everything for himself. He ends up leaving that, right? I think there's some, right, because there's that confrontation with Micah where Dutch is there. And there's that moment where he just leaves.
Correct. And then
I wonder.
Oh, go ahead. No, after you.
I was just going to say, I wonder if it's the reveal of his true self, that he goes, I'm never getting these people back.
Yeah.
And maybe this money doesn't mean anything to me. It's the power. It's the hold over other people that I really care about.
Yeah, that walk away from Arthur is almost like, was that Toy Story 2? I don't want to play with you anymore, Woody. And like, the nightmare sequence, right?
Yeah.
Where it's almost like, oh, you have no more use for me. And then he walks away. And then at the end, when you go to shoot Micah, Dutch is also there and does the exact same thing when he realizes if this is over, he's literally about to be dead to me, and he walks away.
Right.
I wash my hands of this and walks away. And then, as you were mentioning earlier, as he's spiffed up, right? Always dressed really nice. Red Dead Redemption 1, he's still doing the same stuff and silver tongue his way into making people do his bidding, but he is rugged and rough and just wearing wearing nasty clothes, right? He's completely lost himself, but he's grasping so hard at what he has been. It's just it's fascinating.
I think from a story perspective, I think he was supposed to be symbolic of the Old West.
Correct.
Right? Of the Wild West, I guess I should say. Of that freedom where you could essentially get away with anything, because there was no presence of control, right? It's all chaos. It's all wildness. And I think Dutch is supposed to be that kind of symbolic nature of, this is, in RDR2, we have it's dying, but it's not dead. It's still living. It's getting chased out. It's getting pursued. Law is coming in and kind of, slowly squeezing the life out of it. And then in RDR1, we have that where we have the death.
Correct.
Of the Wild West. Of that chaos, of that selfishness in a lot of ways.
Well, that's another beautiful thing with RDR2, right? Is it's that the West is dying, and part of why he's been successful is because of what the Wild West was, right? Shoot up a town. If you get far enough away, everyone forgets about it. You go to the next town, no one knows who you are. As things progress, right, and as technology comes in, Pinkertons, telegraph, right, all these things that you can't escape what you've done anymore. And that's the whole point of the game, right? Is you constantly trying to escape what you've done in the previous area, and then it catches up to you. Is literally everything is chasing you through the whole thing. And it's a brilliant look into someone who's just successfully been himself, because the world was built for that. And then that world is falling apart, and he has no place in it anymore.
Right. And I think that's why we see the change in RDR1, where it's and I think we see it in RDR2, right? He abandons the trappings of wealth, because I think he realizes that's not how I control people anymore.
Correct.
I need to control people through belief, not through money. And that's because in RDR1, he has taken over, he essentially is leading the native people towards rebellion and leading them into death. I mean, he starts to do that in RDR2.
Correct.
But he is a good character, and that is just
through and through. And the voice acting, absolutely incredible, right? So and the fact that again, we have to mention, right, RDR1 came out, right, takes place after RDR2. You go into RDR2 knowing he's the bad guy. You're aware of it, but he's so fucking charismatic. I've never seen anyone portrayed this well being charismatic, where you're like, he's bad. He is the awful force in this, but you just love him.
Yeah.
You can tell, he's the bad guy, but you're like, if I was one of these people, I would 100% have fallen for all this.
Right.
He is just so charismatic. You just, you love him. And then you hate him. You legitly love him, and then you hate him.
Well, it's a little bittersweet, right? Because even when he's doing these things, even when he abandons Arthur, even there's a little part of you that's like, Dutch, why, man?
Yeah.
Why?
He's the only guy that's been with you the whole time.
Like, well, I mean, you almost feel like Arthur, like, we loved you.
Yeah.
And you just left us to die. You know? I mean, honestly, I am blown away by the story. I need to go back and I need to finish RDR1. I've only ever gotten up to
the remaster just came out.
I know. I'm thinking about getting it on PC. But there is, I always get to the moment where you're on the ranch and you're having to herd the cattle. And then inevitably,
you mean the very beginning?
Yeah. And then inevitably what happens is the game crashes and I've lost my save and I have to do that whole part over again. And I am like,
dude,
no.
I'm so glad Rockstar stepped away because all their games used to be that way, where the first like hour and a half was so fucking brutally slow. It's just like, why is this a thing? Like RDR1 is an incredible game, but that first hour and a half is fucking brutal.
I am having a really hard time getting past it.
Oh my God. Now take these cows through the rain. Uh-oh, there's lightning. Like, I don't fucking care about the cows.
I don't. And it's a long part of the game.
It is.
And it feels brutally long when it's like you're just about to finish it and then the game crashes and you're like, please don't make me do that whole thing over again.
Sure does.
And you load back in and you got to do that whole thing over again.
I'm not gonna lie, and RDO, right? Because RDR2, you never go to that side of the map, right? Really?
Right.
So RDO, the first time we go to McFarland Ranch, I was like, I started shivering. I had PTSD.
You got PTSD.
Yeah. Oh, brutal, man. But yeah, again, RDR2, you should fucking play it. And I'm glad I reinstalled it to play RDO because we just were talking about it, and I kind of want to play the campaign again. So
yeah,
that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Anything else on that, buddy?
No, I think that's it.
Fuck yeah, dude. That was great. I'm smiling.
That was a good episode. I love that,
man. Oh, Antagonists, folks. The Protagonist episode was super fun, but I really enjoyed this one more.
I think so too.
Antagonists are just way more interesting. Well, because Protagonists become interesting, right? Based on what happens through the game. Antagonists are cool because they're built to be cool out of the gate. They're already set up to be interesting. You're just like, oh, cool. How can they get better? As time goes on.
Right.
It's cool. I love it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Oh yeah. Well, as Russ mentioned, for anyone in the chat, we'll see when I get this episode out. But tomorrow night, what is that? The 9th. At 7 p.m. Mountain Time, we're going to be doing some community RDO shenanigans. We've got quite a few people with the trader role, right, with wagons to deliver, which means we need a full posse of people to protect us from NPCs and other players, right? And it is some of the most fun you will have in a game, legitly taking a wagon from one side of the map to the other and yelling at players to get out of the way and getting in fights with people or even if nothing happens, it's just fucking fun to ride as a full group. We have obviously moonshining going on, Moonshine the bar. We're all going to end the night getting drunk in there and playing in the band and dancing and slapping each other in the face. The classic, anyone who's been around for a while, the Saint Denis races where we steal wagons and have a racetrack in Saint Denis. It's going to be a fun night of shenanigans, my friends. So highly recommend it. This is on PC. Sadly, it is not cross-play, which would be incredible. But yeah, if you have RDO and you're on PC, rock and roll and join us.
Okay, so a couple of things while we're talking about that. So I was running a wagon earlier today.
Okay.
And it because I'm trying to build back up my trader, and freaking I cannot tell you how much I hate playing on PC, and specifically because of trolls who have modded the game. Because I'm about halfway and my wagon just randomly blew up.
yeah. It's
like,
definitely it's somehow gotten a little better. I think as people have been bored and moved away from the game. There was a while there. I have a great YouTube video I highly recommend going to look of one of the craziest nights of hackers we ever had, where we had we had zombies spawning on us through all of sand, like a horde of zombies spawned on us, tin soldiers. We were fighting legendary crocodiles falling out of the sky. Absolutely insane night. I highly recommend watching that video. But yeah, it's definitely gotten better since then. But it's still, when it happens, man, it's. I had a funny thing the other night, actually. This is something to show how people are just like, oh, here we go. I'm running around. I'm hunting in the mountains, right? And suddenly my guy flies in the air, and the whole server spawns in the middle of the street in Valentine, as we've all experienced, right? In the past, everyone just go, oh, fuck, and just start blasting, right? Every single person, you could almost feel them go, without saying a word. Everyone just walked into the bar, got a whiskey, chugged it, walked out of the bar, and everyone went their separate ways. It was just, everyone was like, I don't want to. It was so fucking funny.
So I'm thinking for the wagons, what we need to do is this. We need to have teams. So it's 2 people.
Okay.
Because then what you can do is you can have people jump from wagon to wagon and try and knock the other person off and take over the wagon.
Oh, like we're going against each other.
Yeah. Also, I'm voting that what my team does is there's a bounty. There's a couple of bounties that you can do where they have a wagon with a Gatling gun on it.
That is true.
I want to steal that wagon, take it to the race, and then have somebody sit on the back and just
death race.
Yes.
Listen, if you just have Runga in the race, that's all. Like, you don't need anything else. That man will sideswipe you like a maniac.
I'm excited about this. I'm going to be a little bit late. We've got some stuff we've got to do in the evening, but I will be there.
Cool. Perfect. Anything else from you, Rusty Poo, for the episode 128?
No, I think that's it for me.
Fucking love you, man. Where can the good people find you? I adore you. Fucking love you so fucking much.
You know what? You can find me wherever your heart longs to find me the most.
Across the street from me is where my heart longs to find you the most.
You can find me on Twitter, drjex. That's JEX72590.
Yep.
And I'm not very active on there. I will respond to you, if that's the case. And of course you can find me on the Discord, Jackal7250. I will probably respond 3 or 4 days later because that tends to be my modus operandi. I would love to chat with anybody who wants to chat with me or game with anybody who wants to game with me.
Hell yeah. And might I mention, and not to talk about it for very long, but fucking this D&D campaign we've been able to pull off with a few people in the Discord has been so much fucking fun. I don't think we've really mentioned it on the show. It's every other Friday.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking incredible. The video of it is on my YouTube, which I'll mention later. The audio goes over to anyone who knows the beautiful folks of the Blueberry Lounge. The audio goes onto their podcast. If you just want to listen to it, it's there. If you want to watch it, I mean, obviously come watch it live, but if you just want to watch the VOD of it, that goes live on my YouTube. So it's been really fucking fun.
I don't want to toot our horn, but I was watching it the other night. And I don't usually go back and listen to our podcast. I don't usually, I'll watch you on Twitter, but usually things that I participate in, I don't really go back and watch. So going back and watching this, because I was talking to Lindsay about it, and I was like, oh, no, I really want to remember some of those moments. And I was laughing so hard I nearly drowned myself because I was drinking water and choked on it.
That's so fucking funny.
And it was so good, even just to listen back to it. It was funny. There's lots going on. We do a little bit of role playing. We're also not super serious about it, so we're a little silly about it. But it's a good story. You're doing a great job as the
Thanks,
DM.
man.
The players are fantastic. They're creative. They're fun. Just I love you guys.
Everyone's down to role play. I love what, and that's the thing is this last session was like it was almost purely combat, but so much story happened within it, and
it was good.
It was really good combat.
Yes. We had people who were being tactical and methodical about things. We had one person just trying to throw a monkey wrench into everything. I was trying to talk to people.
Yes. Oh my.
So
people
good.
trying out new spells at insane levels to see like, oh, cool, that turns people into paste. Awesome. Good to know.
Vaporization of thunderclap at 3rd level.
Fuck those guys. Triple kill. Kilimanjaro. Hell yeah. Sorry about that. We got too excited. I ran out of beverage. Throat stripe. I can't taste my own dick anymore. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us for episode 128 of Just Some Gamers. We do the show we are live. Twitch.tv/ELMMERFUDD games, usually Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Things have been switched around here and there just due to real life things. That's the way we are. Anyone who's been a lifelong fan, and we mean a long life because we've been around a long time without very many episodes. You're well aware. This is our MO. This is what happens. As for myself, I'm ELMMERFUDD. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the places at ELMMERFUDD Games. E. Hell yeah, Russell. For this glorious episode we just recorded, why don't you take us out?
Join us next week on Just Some Gamers for mutual chaos and utter incompetency.
Oh. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, buddy. I'm not going to lie to you.
That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Listen, killing each other like maniacs in Helldivers right before this with the group, right, set a really good tone. And I was already in a good mood coming in, and I'm in an exceptionally good mood. It was a fine addition to my day.
You're a fine addition to my day.
You're a fine addition to any day.
You're a fine addition to my penis.
Your micro penis?
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. Dude,
if
next time
we
I accidentally swallow mine, I could spit it into your mouth.